Hey guys, Metallicaloid28 back again, here to bring you guys another video. This one's going to be doing part 4 of my 2014 Mets regular season series. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about a few good things and a few bad things concerning the Mets this season so far. Now, the Mets have been playing very well lately. I'm not going to lie. A little surprising that they were 15-11 before yesterday's game, so now they're 15-12 after they lost to the Rockies last night in Thursday's game, I believe 7-4. But besides that, the Mets are playing really well lately, and the key is that they're playing really well at home. I mean, what a great 10-game homestand the Mets had. They won 6 games out of the 10 games, and 2 of those series they won. They won 3 out of 4 against the Cardinals, and they won 2 out of 3 against the Marlins at home. And yeah, they came off a series where they lost before the Cardinals series. I believe it was the Braves that they had lost that series. But other than that, the Mets have been playing really well lately. And it leads me to think now that if the Mets do continue this success throughout June, when Noah Syndergaard and Montero and DeGrom are expected to come up, possibly Vic Black would come up too, it leads me to think, well, the Mets are going to have to make some moves now to satisfy us fans. I mean, that's what they're going to have to do. Now, what I think the Mets should do, I did explain in my last video, the crazy trades I thought they should pull off. And, well, let me rephrase that. It's not crazy. It's realistic, you know, but for the Mets, you know how things go with them. Anything realistic is not realistic to them, but in my mind, it's realistic. And some of you guys have commented on that video that I made last week, and you guys do agree with me that those trades are realistic. So, hey, you know, that's what they should do. I still stick to that. But, one of those moves, unfortunately, will not come to fruition because it was announced today that the Detroit Tigers have signed closer Joel Hanrahan to a 1-year, get this, $1 million deal. Holy shit. 1 year, $1 million deal. So the Mets are not going to get Joel Hanrahan. And now it seems like if the Mets are going to get a closer, it's not going to come until next year, either when Parnell comes back and he comes back as their closer, or if they sign one. And it seems like for this year, it's going to be a closer by committee. Right now, it stands that Kyle Farnsworth is the Mets closer. He can easily lose that job with a couple of bad outings, and then they might give the job to Dice K, is from what I'm hearing. And if he does well or if he doesn't do well, it all depends on, obviously, how Farnsworth does. But let's say they both do bad, okay? At that point, the Mets don't really have another option unless they dip into their minor league system and bring up a guy, maybe a guy that they've been talking about for a while now, and that's Jack Leathersich. The flame-throwing lefty that the Mets have down in AAA, but he has control issues. And then, of course, the other option would probably be Vic Black, who the Mets fans saw a little bit from last year when he was in the trade for Marlon Byrd and John Buck from the Pirates. He came over and he closed out some games, and he did a pretty damn good job, except this year he didn't even start the season on the 25-man roster. He's not even on the Mets right now. He's in AAA, so for his own control issues. So he's not coming up anytime soon. So I would love to see him be the closer for the rest of the year, but that remains to be seen. Another option, obviously, which is way less likely, is them trading for a closer right now. The only way they would be able to do that is if they were to go to a team that is not contending, obviously, at all, but also has a good closer. Maybe a team like, let me see, an Arizona. I always go back to Arizona because they're just one of the most disappointing teams in recent memory. I mean, this team did so many moves to try to get good and compete with the Dodgers and possibly the Giants, and they're the worst team in baseball right now. I mean, they went out and they got, they obviously still have J.J. Putz, but they went out and got Addison Reed from the White Sox, okay? They let Heath Bell go to the Rays, and they fucking traded for Mark Trumbo, and they traded away a star in the making in Adam Eaton, okay? They just did so many moves. And then, of course, they signed Bronson Arroyo in the rotation. They did a lot of moves, let's just put it that way. And it's not even going their way at all. So, whatever. I think they would be a perfect fit. I think if the Mets can make a crazy trade for their closer, Addison Reed, and send them what they want, which is still maybe Kevin Plawecki, and the starter I mentioned, Dylan G, that would get it done. But I think the Mets, if they were ever to make a trade with the Diamondbacks, it would be more for a shortstop. It's more for their shortstop than the closer. I don't think that's going to happen. If I were the Mets then, instead of getting a closer, and I know that's crazy, but I would rather still do the other moves I said. They need more bats in this lineup. Clearly, they need a shortstop still. Tejada's not cutting it. Yes, he has had great defense, and that's one thing I want to point out in this video. The Mets have had great defense all year so far. Like defense, I haven't seen them play in years. Okay, this has been one of the most. This has been one of the best defensive Mets teams in recent years. However, the offense sucks, and it still is gonna suck even when Juan Lagares coming back up because it's still gonna suck. Like their offense is trash. Curtis Granderson can't hit a lick. David Wright's in a slump. You know, the only guy that's pretty much hitting is Daniel Murphy, and Lucas Duda's okay. D'Arnaud, hopefully he's coming back to the potential he can possibly, do because he just hit a home run last night. And then Tejada's simply Tejada. He's not hitting shit. So if I'm the Mets, I stick to my guns like I made in my last video, those predictions, and you get yourself a shortstop and you get yourself a slugger. And one of the sluggers I think the Mets should get is in this series right now against the Rockies, and I'm still standing towards that. It's Cargo, okay? It's Carlos Gonzalez. But we'll see. I'm not going to jump the gun right now. Let me just focus in this video on what the Mets are really doing right now. So now that the Mets can't get Joel Hanrahan, like I said, they would either have to wait until June and bring a Rafael Montero, a Jacob deGrom, a Vic Black, Noah Syndergaard. Syndergaard is not going to have any input in the bullpen. I mean, he's going straight to rotation, clearly. They don't want to mess with him. But the other two guys, Montero and deGrom, they might go into the bullpen, okay, depending if the Mets didn't make any trades for any guys in the rotation. So it seems like they're going to have to plug in Montero and deGrom into their bullpen. Who knows? What if one of these guys end up being the closer for the rest of the year? It's possible. The Cardinals have done it. Like I said in my last video, the Cardinals have done it with Trevor Rosenthal. That guy's a starter. He was a starter in the minors, and he was projected to be a starter until he came up, and he's now their closer, And who knows how long that's going to last until they get an actual closer later down the road, or they just decide to keep him as their closer because they have so much, starting pitching. So hopefully the Mets are in that same – they had that same bad problem, or should I say good problem. Hopefully they get to that point where they can have a problem like that because that'd be a great problem to have. Now, I'm hearing – I'm going online, trying to look at some rumors. The Stephen Drew rumors are still out there. Like with the Mets obviously playing well, we did expect this to happen. If the Mets were going to play well, a couple of months into the season, they were going to have to make some moves. And the Stephen Drew rumors were going to still come up if he wasn't signed by now, and he's still not signed, and it's May 2nd. Okay, so I mean, I still predict this guy's going to get signed in June by another team. I don't think the Mets are going to sign him. I think they're going to go out in the route for a trade. But hey, I would sign him right now if I'm the Mets. Clearly, obviously, I would sign him. That would be a big boost to that offense, and his defense is great too. This guy has great defense. The only thing that comes with Stephen Drew is two things: the price and then the injuries. I mean, the price is probably going to be $13 million per year, and then the injuries. I mean, this guy hasn't been healthy for a while. So everything comes with its risks, and everything comes with its pros. So that's how baseball is. Now. We're gonna continue this 4-game series against the Rockies on the road, and we'll see what happens from there. But I'm gonna make a few predictions now that the Mets should, feast on now that they don't have the chance to get Joel Hanrahan. This means that if the Mets do go out, let's say they do make the trade I said, right, and they go out and they trade for Chris Owings still, they send them Kevin Plawecki and Dylan G, because Dylan G is gonna have so much of a turn back. I mean, this guy, that will do it. That trade will easily do it for the Mets. I don't know if the Mets want to trade Dylan G away, maybe trade another starter away, but eventually Dylan G is not the future of the Mets. As sad as that is, that's how good that rotation is going to be for the Mets, that Dylan G is not good enough to stay in it. So they might as well get rid of him now before he gets another arbitration raise and becomes even more expensive and even less likely to be traded. Trade him now while he's hot, because we have seen Dylan G when he was not that great. Last year, even, we saw him before the Yankees series. He was not a great pitcher. He was getting hit left and right. All of a sudden, it's like right after they played the Yankees last year, it clicked. Like, he just went off, and he's pitching like an ace, to be honest. So right now, his ceiling is a little high, but I don't never see Dylan G more than a middle of the rotation kind of starter. I don't ever see him as a number 2 or a number 1, obviously. He's more like, if he gets his full potential, if he reaches that, will be a number 3 starter. I believe so. So send him with Kevin Plawecki to the Diamondbacks and get Chris Owings. That's step 1. Or sign Stephen Drew. But I'd rather go with the first, obviously my trade prediction. Step 2. Okay? Let's say it's June. You bring up Noah Syndergaard. You bring up all the kids. You bring up Vic Black. Montero, DeGrom, possibly Leatherstich, whatever it takes. And you send down the guys in the bullpen that are just complete ass, like Carlos Torres and Scott Rice and even Papa Grande. Jose Valverde might get sent down if he keeps pitching the way he's doing. I mean, he's pitching awful. So let's say they do all these moves or whatever, and then they're still winning. Like they're winning, they're above 500. They're in the wild card race, and everything looks good. The Mets have to make another splash, and hopefully by then the Rockies suck. They plummet back down to earth like they usually do, and they just stink up the place, and then that means that they're gonna have to rebuild or at least pull away some pieces so that their future looks a lot brighter. I would then go after, obviously, Carlos Gonzalez and make a trade for him. You're going to have Syndergaard in the rotation, right, to replace Dylan G. But then, if Montero's up by then, you can have Montero in the rotation to replace the guy that the Mets are going to have to trade away to try to get a slugger like Cargo, and that guy would be Henry Mejia, another guy that's pitching absolutely amazing for the Mets, who would net the Mets a good return. So I would trade Mejia still with Brandon Nimmo, Juan Lagares, as much as I love Lagares to death, and Wilmer Flores, and a first-round pick to the Rockies for Carlos Gonzalez. You're looking at our outfield rotation now of Granderson in right, Chris Young in center, and Cargo in left. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's as good as it's going to get right there. I mean, that's great, as long as Granderson, plays back to the way he should be. So then, all right, you made those deals. Okay, fine. Let's say the Mets get into the playoffs. They're wildcard contenders. Who knows what's going to happen? What if Matt Harvey decides he's going to come back in September because one of our own guys are going to have to get shut down? That's a possibility. People forget that Matt Harvey stated that in September he was going to try to come back. And that's obviously, he meant that obviously if the Mets are in contention. So what if the Mets are in contention? And what if the Mets have to shut down one of their guys? What if they have to shut down Zach Wheeler? Because they don't want the same thing happen to him that happened to Harvey. Or what if they shut down Noah Syndergaard or Rafael Montero? The Mets are going to need another starter. And they just, at that point, would have traded two of them away in Dylan G and Henry Mejia. Matt Harvey might come back. And the Mets might have a good run towards September and October. And who knows what can happen. But let's say all is bad and the Mets don't do anything. They get eliminated. They reach the playoffs and get eliminated. 2015 is looking like the year the Mets are finally going to dominate. I think I can easily say that, because then what's going to happen is this. The Mets are going to need a closer, right? Because even if Bobby Parnell comes back, he still hasn't really proven himself that he can be the every-year closer for the Mets. I don't see that. And on top of that, he's not coming back until May anyway, because he got Tommy John surgery. Excuse me. He got Tommy John surgery really late into April. He's not going to be ready by the start of the regular season. So I'm looking at the free agent list for closers next year, and there's a good class coming out next year. I mean, you guys, we have top flight closers coming out for free agency next year. That's Sergio Romo from the Giants, Jim Johnson from the A's, Casey Janssen from the Blue Jays. So if I'm the Mets, I think the guy I would go after the most would be Sergio Romo. I mean, a good 3-year deal would net him easily. So the Mets can sign a guy like Sergio Romo. Then they're gonna have another decision to make. They have they have actually one more free agent next year that's important, and that's Chris Young. He's gonna be a free agent. So what do? It all depends on Chris Young's performances here. If Chris Young plays really well, most likely they're gonna re-sign him to a little longer deal, like maybe a 2-year deal. But if he does not play well, and there's all those outfield free agents that are out there, like Michael Kadire, who else? Let me get the list for you guys. Sorry, give me 1 second. MLB free agents. Okay, let's see. Let's see what we got here. I know Michael Kadire is one. I just saw this. Give me 1 second. Where is the list? Excuse me, guys. I'm just trying to look for the list. I just had it. Come on. Okay, I think I got it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So, sorry about that, guys. I was just trying to figure out who's the outfield free agents next year. Melky Cabrera's out there. There's Ryan Ludwig. There's Delman Young. There's Josh Willingham. There's let me see here, Colby Rasmus. Denard's fan, Chris Young, obviously, Michael Kadire. But this is a big one right here. Nelson Cruz. Did we forget about Nelson Cruz? Nelson Cruz only signed a one-year deal with Baltimore, and he's having a good season so far. He's obviously playing with a chip on his shoulder, trying to prove to everybody that he did deserve that long-term contract, despite the biogenesis scandal that happened with him. He was involved in that, obviously. But look at Johnny Peralta. I mean, this guy got a lucrative deal with the St. Louis Cardinals of all teams. So I mean, and the reason why I say of all teams is because they hardly do big signings like this. They usually build from within, and they still sign them. So that made the Mets look really bad. So I say the Mets can go out and sign Nelson Cruz to that deal that he was looking for. Especially with Chris Young's money off the books. That's going to help a little bit. And especially if the Mets do have a winning season this year, they're going to generate more revenue, obviously. They're going to have more money to spend next year for sure. So, what do you guys think? This video I know was a little similar to the past video I just made, but I just wanted to comment on what happened today with the signing of Joe Hanrahan to the Tigers. And obviously I wanted to, reach out to you guys and what do you guys think about, and talk to you guys about what do you guys think about the Mets playing as well as they have lately? Do you think that this is a sign of things to come? Or do you think this is just a phase that the Mets are going through and they're going to finally come back down to earth as well and they're going to just suck up the place like they usually do with their miserable second halves that they usually have? So since I saw the Mets playing this well, and I've been watching every game, I'm on pins and needles, with this dreadful bullpen that the Mets have, which has been pitching pretty better, definitely better than they have in the beginning of the season. But still, it's nerve-wracking to watch these games. I mean, I'm just being real. But a win is a win. These guys are getting their wins. I wanted to make this video to pretty much, update you guys on what the Mets, what's going on in the Mets world, and what do you guys think that the Mets should do? Should the Mets go after these guys I mentioned? Is it still too early to kind of make trade predictions? Is it still too early to, for the Mets to try to think of something like that? Because it's only the beginning of May. Maybe 1 month from now I make another video and it's June and the Mets are still like 4 or 5 games over 500 contending for the wild card spot. Is it going to make it a difference? Because then the guys are going to come up. Do the Mets then try to look at the trade rumors? What's going to happen? Do they possibly try to, construct a trade? So it's all up to Sandy Alderson. So that's it. That's how I'm gonna wrap up my video. Obviously, you guys can keep subscribing to my channel, and I'll keep bringing you guys videos. I'm gonna continue to extend my 2014 Mets regular season series, and I'm gonna come out once I'm done with this series. I'm gonna come out with different series for the Mets. I'm gonna do obviously the off season for 2015. That's gonna be another series I'm gonna do, and I'll probably start coming up with little random videos, maybe some Q&As for you guys. Or maybe anything else. Like, it doesn't have to just be my regular season series. It might be different type of videos on stuff that I see what's going on in the Mets world, or even just in MLB in general. It doesn't only have to be the Mets, even though the majority of my channel is going to be the Mets. I mean, I'm a huge-ass Mets fan, so I don't really want to fucking sit here and talk about the Yankees or Red Sox, fuck them, or the Phillies. I'm a Mets fan, and I'm going to fucking talk about the Mets. The majority of my channel is going to be the Mets. But if there's anything tremendous that happens in baseball, like a huge signing, or a huge trade, like if Steven Drew gets signed somewhere else, of course I'm going to make a video on that, or Kendrys Morales, those type of videos. But if you guys have any video ideas for me to make, please feel free, to just comment down below and just let me know what type of video you guys want me to do. I can gladly do another video for you guys that doesn't have to be, like I said, in my 2014 Mets regular season series. So that's it. Comment down below, guys, on how you feel about this video that I just made for you. And I will be coming out with my next video shortly, possibly most likely next week. So you guys feel free to stop by and watch that too. Okay, guys. So once again, I'm Metallicaloid28, guys. You guys have a great day, and I'm out.